So first, boy, if he takes the witness stand, they're in desperate times. I mean, you can never control what your client's going to do. One answer to one question throws the entire case into turmoil. So no, you want to use that as a last resort. It's not uncommon for defense attorneys, including myself, to say, my client can't wait to take the witness stand, and then you don't have them take the witness stand. You say the government just didn't prove their case. So back to the other part of your question, what do I think they're going to do? They're going to attack the indictment. They're going to say there was no coercion. It was voluntary. Everybody wanted to be there. It's not voluntary because the government witnesses say so. You want to believe the word of cinnamon, amber, fallopia, and toiletta? Come on.
And Jesse, I mean, I think that, look, it's going to have to be an attack on the women and others. It's going to be women and men who are going to be testifying, but it's going to be backed up by some of these videos, too.
So there's a couple of things here. There's one charge, I don't know how he escapes, the transportation to engage in prostitution. If you say these are sex workers, and I think a lot of them are, and he transported them, that's guilty. Now, if you talk about the racketeering charge, which makes up the majority of the indictment, you can break that up in a number of ways. There's no conspiracy here. There's no a criminal agreement. There's no criminal enterprise. These are all isolated things the prosecution is now putting under this umbrella. We've seen the same thing happen in a number of cases. And sure, he had a lot of aides. He had a lot of supervisors. He had security. But was there this common purpose to move forward with a criminal enterprise, like he's the mafia, like he's the gang leader? I think if they attack that, that's the best strategy, not saying he's going to go on the stand. I think that's the last resort.
But even if he's convicted of the transporting charge, he's still facing a lot of time behind bars.
These are incredibly serious charges,
right?
Don't get me straight. And by the way, the sex trafficking charge that he faces with respect to one victim, the only way that he can fight that is saying, and we don't know who this victim one is, we can take a guess who this is. You basically say, there was no fraud, forced coercion. This was not commercial sex act. She was my girlfriend. Of course, I took her on trips. Doesn't mean I was paying her to do anything. I wasn't promising anything of value. They have to be very, very specific. The thing for prosecutors is, this is a story they can tell. And this is the beginning of it. We don't know a lot of the other people that are cooperating. I imagine they're going to have a lot more. And if they tell that story to the jury, that's why R. Kelly got convicted. Now, he was with respect to minors, but he was convicted of racketeering charges, too. So this is not uncommon.
And Mark, I think there'll be a question about how many victims, alleged victims, are allowed to testify, right? And how powerful, that could be, because the more you get in there, the more difficult it makes the defense.
Correct, but there's going to be no limitations placed by the judge. They're going to pile the victims on. But every victim is an opportunity for the defense to say, wait a second, you did this. He didn't force you to do that. You did this. Look in the video. This doesn't look like you're forced. And to Jesse's point, again, I'm not part of the team, but the defense will surely not concede count 3. They're going to say, Diddy didn't arrange to have these people brought to the house. He had people to do that. He didn't go to Costco to buy the lube. Someone else did. I say that as a joke. He didn't go to Costco. But he delegates many parts of what these freak-offs were to other people. And again, criminal charges require guilty knowledge. So if he doesn't know whether they're bringing in Toiletta from Georgia or whether they're bringing him in from the state that he's in, then he could probably avoid that charge.
Mark mentioned the baby oil, which
how can we forget?
Which becomes a big issue. 1,000 bottles of it found at his home. His lawyer then saying, I don't think it was 1,000. I think it was a lot. I mean, there's a Costco right down the street. I think Americans buy in bulk, as we know. Costco then responded to it, saying a spokesperson for Costco tells TMZ none of the company's U.S. locations carry baby oil.
Yeah, well, look, I will tell this. I will say this. I think this is the first week of it, and he's starting to formulate a defense. Not the one I would go with at trial. Call me crazy. But I will say, and I think this is important to get to, is I think there's a strong chance Sean Combs admits there were freak-offs. I called them freak-offs.
Right.
That's what it is.
I think he's going to have to admit to that, right?
He's going to have to do it. But like I think it goes...
He's going to just say they were parties.
There's tapes of it. Hey, yeah, there's tapes of it. Right. Now, he's not necessarily charged with illegally videotaping these people, but I think it's the number one thing. If they can say they were all there and there was no coercion, there was no force, but the problem is they have interviewed 50 victims and witnesses.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.